everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I never know how to intro these sit down videos because I don't have my little pre-montage going on. Anyway, hello everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you happen to be watching this, and thank you so much for clicking on the video and clicking on my channel. I am about to sit down and do a very exciting video. Well, exciting. It might be interesting to some people, but today I'm actually going to be sitting down and reviewing my off-season because, in case you don't know, I have competed in one season before. That was 2 years ago, and I last stepped off stage literally this week 2 years ago in November 2022. Since then, I've been in an off season and I am gearing up to start my prep for my second ever season in about 3 or 4 weeks, which is crazy to say, and it's honestly mental. It feels like the last 2 years has flown by, but at the same time it feels like so much has changed, because a lot has changed. So much has changed. I'm going in a new federation, I'm going in a new class, a lot of stuff has gone on in these last 2 years. So yeah, I just thought it would be interesting for me to sit down and walk you through every phase of my off season, what they've looked like, what we've done, and everything that I've done to get myself to this position where I'm now ready to start my prep. Well, I say ready, I'm getting to that point now where I'm am I ready? But I'm going to talk about that a bit more at the end and talk about how I'm feeling going into this prep. So let's walk it back. Let's go all the way back to the start. So just for anybody who doesn't know, maybe this is the first time you watch this video, maybe you've been watching the vlogs but you don't really know about my first season and how that went. I competed for the first time within the natural figure division. So I competed in WMBF Ireland, the MBFI, the INBA, the PNBA, WMBF World, all those sort of federations. I did do one PCA show as well, and it was a really good first season. It was actually a really successful first season. So looking back, I won 2 national overall titles at the WMBF and the MBFI. I won the PCA tone figure. I came second in Britain at the UKDFBA show, which is a huge show. I won the Europeans and I won a PMBA pro card, and then I came third at the WMBF Worlds, and that was my final show. So that's kind of where I want to start this video. So I did my final show at WMBF Worlds. I was in LA, and we were obviously to fly. I flew to Vegas for the Natural Olympia, and then the week later we had WMBF Worlds. So obviously Shane was competing with me. That's my fiance, in case anybody doesn't know. So we were obviously we're going to stay for a few days in LA and enjoy it. And I have no regrets about that at all. It was honestly, when I'm looking at all of my memories right now, they're all coming up on my Instagram stories. That was such a fun time. It was such a fun trip. We just had such a great time together. We got to spend the few days just relaxing after, I think I prepped for 32 weeks at that point and I was done. But obviously, being post-show, 4 or 5 days of just no holding back, it probably wasn't the best way to start my reverse, and it's probably not what I'm going to do next time around. I've definitely learned from that. Again, no regrets. I do not look back on that and think that I wish I hadn't done it, but I definitely have learned that the next time when I do finish my competition season, I'll probably have dinner out, maybe have one relaxed day, and then I'm just going to get straight back to my reverse plan, because I do want my reverse to go better. And I do want to talk a little bit about reversing and being post-show, because I know there's probably a lot of people maybe watching this right now who are in that phase, and especially if it's your first time, it can be such a weird time. It's such a mind fuck. I think there's a lot of people who talk about it, but at the same time, some people don't talk about it. A lot of people make out that post-show is this really scary thing. It's terrifying. And I remember when we finished our last show, we had gotten a box of donuts. And obviously I was super excited to eat the donuts, right? But a part of me was quite worried, because I almost expected it would be I would take one bite of this donut and be a fucking cocaine addict, and I would just not be able to stop. And don't get me wrong, the donut was nice. It was good. I'm pretty sure the first one I had was a Nutella donut. But we had gotten a box of 12 donuts between the two of us. I think we took a bite out of each, and I didn't even take a bite out of every single one. And then we stopped, and I was kind of satisfied, I was kind of full, and I didn't have that feeling of I have to keep eating. And I was so surprised by that, because especially for some context, like I do come from a background, like, you know, quite a few years ago, I've struggled really badly with binge eating disorder for years. So for me, that was always a bit of a worry, was, is this going to come back post show? Because you hear people say that, and I just never got that. Don't get me wrong, like, I enjoyed the food in LA. Oh my God, like, I literally had such a good time. I look back at all of those videos and I'm like, that food was so nice. Like your taste buds at that point are like so sensitive. So everything you eat tastes really good. But, you know, there was a lot of meals that I didn't finish. I never felt like I ate past the point of fullness, maybe like once or twice. I think there was one night where we went out for dinner and then we stopped and we got like a cookie or something, and I felt like, oh, I was like lying on the bed thinking this is not nice, and that was actually the only time that happened. And so then after that I didn't want to do it again, right? So obviously we have the few days in LA and we got home, and honestly at that point I'm just so excited to get back to my normal foods. I was sick of, I mean, especially in LA, like the food, it's, you know, it's hearty, it's hefty, there's a lot of calories in the food. So I just wanted to get back to my normal food, my normal routine, my normal reverse plan. So for some context, so my lowest weight of prep, which was on the 17th of November, was 123.4 pounds. I think that was about 2 days out from my show, or 3 days out from my show. When I got home on the 28th of November, so 11 days later, I was 132.8 pounds. So I was about, what, 8 pounds up? Yeah, about 8.5 pounds up. So, you know, a fair amount of weight within those first few days. Now, don't get me wrong, I think like part of that was kind of needed. Like, obviously, when you're in that state, you are so sensitive. So anything you eat is just going to stick to you. But I remember I came home, and then a couple of days later, I took my first set of pictures to send to my coach, and oh my God, I was like devastated looking at myself. And it's so funny because if I go and look at those pictures now, like I was still quite lean, but it was nothing like I had looked 10 days prior, okay? Like nothing. And this is the thing about being post-show and being in that super sensitive state. The way you gain weight is not fun. It's not fun. Like, it looks so different on the way down versus on the way up. It's quite different to, say if I'm like just doing a normal cut within a bulking phase, right? If I diet and then I reverse back up, I actually tend to look better because I haven't got to that like sucked down depleted state. And also obviously you're probably being better with the reverse too. But when you were as shredded as I was, because I was really lean by that last show, and again, natural athlete, I probably had no thyroid. Testosterone was very much in the bin. Like, my body was primed to just put fat back on, and it did not look good. You know, you look swollen, you look puffy, and I just remember thinking, oh dear God, what have I done? What have I done? And it is really difficult, okay, because you have to remember, I was basically competing for 9 weeks. Like, I had a 9 week run of shows, with the most amount of time between shows being about 2 weeks. So I spent a long time, like, really, really lean. And so your brain just thinks, hey, I'm this lean. This is how lean I am. And so when I saw myself starting to come back to normal, it wasn't pretty. And I do remember I was actually listening to a podcast a few days ago it was Corey Hageman's podcast, the Self-Selecting podcast, with Lauren Conlon, who's a competitor, and she was talking about this like post-show weight gain, and how it's like someone gets like a layer, or like a paintbrush, and just paints a layer over you. Like, it just sticks everywhere. And that's so true, because normally when I gain weight, obviously I think I have areas where I gain weight more, but generally I gain weight pretty evenly. But post-show, it was like all on my midsection, my lower back, my face looked really puffy. It was not fun. So I have learned from that experience so that the next time when I do post-show, like I said, I'm not gonna have 5 or 6 days of just completely doing whatever I want. I think I needed that, and this is what I always say to first-time competitors, like, you're probably gonna mess up. You probably will. And you will learn from it. You will learn from it. And I guarantee you, if you listen to any coach who talks about like you need to nail post show and stuff, you will probably also hear them say that they've had post shows where they've gained like 5 kilos in a week, right? So the reason they say that is because they've made that mistake and they've learned from it. But also, I think sometimes it can be a bit negative for people to put that much pressure on them that like, you have to nail this, okay? Because as a first timer especially, like, it's really hard. It is really hard. But the piece of advice I would give you if you're a first timer or you're going into a post show is, it's temporary and you will start to feel normal. And anyway, then for the next few weeks, my weight actually did it did stabilize quite a lot. So I kind of floated between that like 132 to 135 mark, and I actually started to look better, which I say this to people as well sometimes. When you've had that big gain of weight, or yeah, big rapid weight gain, like post show, if you then get back to your like proper plan, you will find that you start to look a bit better, just because that kind of like water retention drops off. But then we got to Christmas, and Christmas was fine, but it was quite difficult. That's why I am not competing near Christmas next year, because I don't want to be post show at Christmas. I want to be post show in the summer. But that was a bit of a challenge. I definitely gained a little bit of weight around then, and then we obviously moved to Canada. And moving to Canada again, I was so inconsistent for that week, and new Canadian foods and everything like that. So again, I did gain a bit of weight at that point, but I do want to walk it back, because obviously immediately post show, that was when I decided that I was going to go into wellness. And the reason for that, and this has actually been something that I've been thinking about for ages. If I go back to some of my initial check-in pictures from the start of prep, I was already trying the wellness poses. I was already getting into them terribly, but I remember thinking, I kind of like how this looks, and I thought that maybe it would be something that I could maybe do in the future. Obviously at this point, I'm still like, I'm going to be natty forever. But you know, it was still, I thought that maybe I could go to the class, maybe I could do it in like the Two Bros Naturals and stuff like that. Oh, Emma, so funny. I was so naive. But anyway, whilst I was in the back end of my prep, I was starting to listen a bit more to content about going enhanced and being assisted. And it was just something that sparked my curiosity. And I think as well, once I kind of really decided I wanted to do wellness, there was part of me that knew I probably will have to go down this route, and I will probably have to go assisted, right? You know, because, I mean, yeah, you can compete naturally as a wellness athlete, and there's some girls who do it really well, but like, I knew for me, to get the size I wanted to be, I was not going to do that, natty. And also a big influence on my decision to go down the assisted route was my hormones. So like I said there before, like, post-show, my testosterone was in the bin. And I don't mean directly post-show, I mean 6 months post-show, I still had 0 testosterone. It was undetectable on the blood test. And as a female, it is not good to be there. And obviously I, you know, lost my period. I didn't have a period for like 2 years because of that. My thyroid wasn't great. So because I was learning more about the potential risks of like competing naturally for someone like me who has sensitive hormones and would probably be spending the majority of my time in an amenorrheic state if I had no hormonal replacement therapy in place, I just decided for me that it was not worth it, and that I would want to go down the enhanced route. And I think as well, like as a bodybuilder, you know, I do everything with 100% focus. This is my life, and I just wanted to make that step, and I just wanted to do that because I love competing, I love bodybuilding, and also I know that I've earned the right to go down the assisted route. And I'm not saying that everybody has to, like, listen, do what you want. Not my circus, not my monkeys. For me personally, I would only want to go down that route if I knew I had not exhausted my natural potential. I mean, I'm sure I still had natural potential left and gains to make, but I knew I had put in a lot of work into my physique to build it up naturally, because then adding in assistance is like the cherry on top, right? So that kind of was why I made that decision. So basically, I spent from November 2022 up until about April 2023 just gaining weight, not on a huge amount of food, and I was feeling so shit, like so shit. I hated training. I just felt crap all the time. And then obviously I got my bloods done, and it was like, hey, you have 0 testosterone. Suddenly it was all starting to make sense. So obviously I was thinking about this decision to like go down the enhanced route for months and months and months and months at this point. And then eventually I made the decision, and obviously because of that, like I changed coaches. So I moved from working with AJ, who again, love AJ, amazing coach, especially for natural athletes. But I moved from him to Christian, my current coach, and we started, I want to walk back there. So as soon as I finished competing, I obviously decided I was going to move into wellness. My training stayed the same up until I moved to Canada. So at this point then I'm training in Pure Muscle Fitness, which is the best gym in the fucking world. I miss it so much. And I moved from my push-pull legs, upper lower split, which I was doing for figure, up to doing 3 lower body days a week, just to start bringing up my lower body. And like, to be fair, even though I had 0 hormones and stuff like that, I feel like I was making a little bit of progress. Obviously nothing like the progress that I've been making in the last like year now since actually like going assisted, but you know, it was doing something, I think. And so just to put some numbers on it, I gained over the course of those few months, so from November to April, obviously lowest weight was what, 124.4. Then I came home from LA, I was 132.8, and then I finished up those few months at 157.2, so about 20 pounds gained. And it was in those kind of like last few months that it just came on, and it was not like, it wouldn't stop. I wasn't even eating that much food. I think I was on like 300 grams of carbs on a training day, which I mean is fine, but for how much weight I was gaining, and again that was just because I was in that bottomed out hormone state, which, like I said, not fun. So April 2023 rolls around and I start with my new coach Christian. And because I'd gained so much weight, I wasn't going to like start another push-up phase, right? So that was when we decided we were going to run a diet first. So this was my first exposure to any sort of PEDs. So within this diet phase, obviously I used clenbuterol, fat burner, pretty simple. And I also, a few weeks into it, started testosterone replacement therapy. So we started at like a super, super low dose. And for anybody who's ever curious about that, there's a million and one podcasts you can listen to. It's not something that you just do willy-nilly. It's something that you do because it is, indicated within blood work. And I had, like I said, undetectable testosterone. So we started at a really low dose, I think of like 2 milligrams a week. It's over time we've escalated that based on my blood work, and we've kept it all within the correct range. But that was like my first time using any sort of assistance. So within this diet phase, I did go, so I was 157.2, then I went to New York for a few days, so I came back and I was like 162 pounds. Obviously a lot of that was like water weight, so it dropped off really quickly. But over the course of that diet, I came down to 141 pounds, so it was about like 18, 19 pounds in the space of 14 weeks. So, and that diet was fine, don't get me wrong, like I was pushing hard enough. I think I was on like 50 grams of carbs on a rest day, maybe like 75, and I was doing like cardio 5 days a week, but it wasn't horrific. Obviously we had some things in place to like make it a little bit more tolerable, but we did have to make quite a few changes throughout the diet to like keep the rate of going. But considering the state I was in, and obviously it was my first diet post show, because I had added in a little bit of assistance, it made it a bit easier. I think if I had tried to do that diet completely natty, it just wouldn't have happened. My body would have been like, absolutely fucking not. But I think by the end of that diet then, we added in thyroid, so just T3 replacement therapy. And then in July of 2023, we started a push phase. So during this time, I'm still training lower body 3 days a week and just like building up my ability to recover from that. And then in that July, obviously that was my first exposure to any sort of like anabolic. So I started that at, I think it was 141.8 pounds. It was 6 weeks, and then I went up to about 150.6 pounds. Then I took 6 weeks off any anabolics. Then I went on another 6 weeks. And I actually checked my weight data. In those 6 weeks, I gained 14 pounds, which is just fucking crazy. Now, I will say, in those 6 weeks, I was obviously on Primo, which makes my weight go up super quick. But also, I think I went to Seattle and Orlando for WMBF Worlds and the Olympia, and like those, like they were not good. And that's like a kind of lesson I learned, that now if I'm ever on any sort of anabolic, I'm not traveling. Like I'm just not. I'm staying in the one place, because training wasn't super consistent, but obviously food wasn't. Like, I mean, bro, like looking back, I'm like, you little greedy piggy, I ate way too much. And yeah, I just got fat. Like I just got fat. Like I came back from that trip and I was like, whoa, Nelly. So yeah, me at the end of that last push phase, whoa, I was chunky. And like, I've no problem saying that, I was chunky as fuck. And I learned a lot about like what to do. And like, let's be like, being honest, I was adherent to my calories, but I would have like little extras, I'd have like extra chocolates at night, or if I was getting a coffee on a rest day, I'd get like a latte with like the cold foam on top, which I then realised were like 300 calories. So I was definitely accruing more calories than I should have been, and just not being as tight with tracking. And I think that all contributed to just that weight gain being more rapid than it needed to be, which is a big lesson that I learned for this last push phase. Because ultimately the more that you do stuff like that, I mean, look, you can have flexibility in an off season, of course, and I promote it, but like also you have to understand, if you have more flexibility, which equals more calories, that is going to equal more weight gain. And you have to accept that. You can't do all these things and then get annoyed if the scale spikes up. So it just changed my approach a little bit in this last push phase. At this point, I was still doing 3 lower days and 2 upper days. And then in December, Christian was like, okay, we're probably gonna have to do a diet in January. And I was like, yeah, we probably will. So in January, I think the first week, Shane and I went to Tulum for his birthday, and we came back and I started a diet. Obviously I came back from Tulum even chunkier because Christmas had come and gone, and I'd eaten like, I don't know, 40 tacos over the course of being in Tulum. And guys, like, I felt awful while I was there. Like, I really try to have like a positive body image when I'm a bit heavier, but when I was there, like, I was heavy. It's so funny, even looking back at the pictures, like, my face was so chunky, but like everything. And again, I never want to come across, I'm saying that like, oh, I looked awful because I had more body fat on me. That's not it at all. But like, I had gone so far past where I feel comfortable that it didn't feel good. And everybody's allowed to have preferences for their physique. Obviously, when you're a bodybuilder, like, I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind being heavier, don't mind being softer, but I also like to look like somebody who goes to the gym and puts the work in, and I felt like at that point I didn't. Now, I know some people will disagree and be like, no, you looked fine, and look, you can disagree, like, I don't mind, but personally, I didn't feel good, I didn't feel comfortable, and I was just so excited to get stuck into a diet. So I started my mini cut in January. I think it was around like the 15th. It ended up becoming a photo shoot prep because, I mean, there was nothing mini about this cut. It was 15 weeks, and it had to be, because if I'd only dieted for 6 weeks, I still would have been, you know, kind of large by the end. And the whole goal was get lean enough so that I could start my next reverse phase and not have to diet again before prep. That was the whole point. So over that 15 weeks, I came down from 173 pounds to about 136 pounds. So 30 pounds down. And it was such a responsive diet. I literally dropped 3 pounds every single week with no changes. We made one food change, I think, in about 2 weeks out from the photo shoot, purely to just see what more we could do. But that diet, like, now don't get me wrong, we started aggressive. Like, we did start, I think, on like 150 carb on a training day, 100 carb on a rest day. But I was able to stick on that for those entire 15 weeks or like 13 weeks, 5 cardio sessions a week as well. And obviously in that time I moved, so I think in about 4 weeks out from the shoot, I moved from Canada to Spain. So a lot happened, but I was really on it with that diet, and it went so well. And during the diet phase, I believe it was the last 5 weeks, that was when I had my first exposure to Anavar. So previously I'd only used Primo as an anabolic, but we just wanted to test it to see what it would be like, because obviously I'm going to use it in prep. And I mean, look, I'm not going to promote the use of drugs, but it's definitely fun because you see your physique change so quick when you run Anavar, because it has a really short half-life and it creates a lot of fullness within your muscles, so you start to look pretty crazy and you feel it too. It's very different to a Primo, which is injectable, takes longer to build up within your system. You know, within 3 or 4 days of being on Anavar, I was like, what the fuck has happened to my delts? It was crazy, which is why, and also, again, this is like a bit of an aside, but just for anybody who's interested in PEDs, a lot of people will say Primo has lower side effects, and I disagree. From my own usage, I've used both, and I felt like nothing when I was on Anavar. Even my voice felt absolutely fine. So that's probably going to be what I kind of stick with for the majority of my prep, even though it's an oral, not the best for your liver and your lipids, but because I'm a female, I'm not using massive doses, it's probably going to be fine. But anyway, that's just for anybody who's interested in the PED side of things. But that was my first exposure to Anavar. Finished off the diet. We did like a mock peak week for my photo shoot and stuff like that, so that Christian could like learn a little bit about my body and how it responds. And yeah, that was like my photo shoot. So for anybody who was following me on Instagram, that was my From Fridge to Fab series, which, iconic. I have no problems with saying that. And you know why I have no problems with saying that? Because the amount of people who I'm not going to say they copied me, but there was a lot of, you know, diet series on Instagram after that with like funny names, and I was like, I started that. I don't care what anybody says, I started that. So I sound so like, what's the word, salty. Salty is not the word, but either way, listen, people can do what they want. I like that people were inspired by what I did, but that, like, I got so much engagement on that series, it was crazy. And then I got fat again and now nobody cares about me. That's a joke. Okay, so that brings us up to May of 2024. So I'm about 136 pounds, and that's when we decided to move up to 4 leg days a week, just because my upper body it was developed enough. I was like, I don't need to train my upper body twice a week at all, but my lower body still needs to be bigger. So we moved up to 4 leg days, and I absolutely love it. I always say, like, when I tell people I train legs 4 days a week, the amount of people who are like, how? Like, how do you do that? And I honestly, if I could train legs 5 days a week, I would train legs 5 days a week. I hate training my upper body. When you see me, like, there is videos on this channel of me training upper. It's pathetic. Everything's like at least 3 to 4 reps in reserve. I don't give any, there's no emotion. When I train upper body, I'm just like, okay, I just have to do this. It's a tick the box type thing. Because you have to remember, because I trained for figure for like 2 or 3 years, I developed a good upper body. Like, it's not crazy, hence why I'm in wellness, because I don't have a massive wide upper body or like crazy clavicular width. I'm quite narrow up top, but you know, my back and stuff, it's developed enough. So I don't do any like direct upper back work. I never train arms. I basically just train delts and like 2 sets of lats. That's it, and rear delts. That's because that's all I really need, right? Like, for wellness, you do not need a massive upper body, because it's all about being disproportionate. It's about having a more proportionally bigger lower body to upper. And obviously I need more lower. Like, when I was training for figure, I was doing maybe like 6 direct sets of glutes a week. So they are a weakness. So I've been working really hard to bring them up. They're still weak, but hopefully in another 5 years they might be big enough. But so we started training legs 4 days a week, and honestly, that reverse phase, because I went into that reverse phase and I was like, I am going to get this right. I'm going to fucking nail this, because I knew it was May. If I wanted to be able to stay in my off season until the end of the year, it was on me to not get too fat too quick. That was like, I was the one in control. So how did I do that, right? So first thing is, I obviously, as soon as I did my photo shoot, I think I went out for like, I got like a croissant and breakfast. Then I got straight back to normal. I went home then to Ireland for a week, but I was very meticulous with tracking everything. I didn't have any extras or nothing like that. Even if I got like an extra coffee with milk, I would track that and account for it within my calories. I obviously had like my mom's roast dinner and stuff, but even with that, I was being smart about what I ate in the day preceding up to it. When I came home, if we were going out for dinner, I would look at the menu ahead of time, decide what I was going to have, track it in, and again, manage my calories around it, just to make sure that I wasn't having these huge swings in calories on, you know, 1 day a week. Because in the past, if I do that, often my weight will go up and it will stick. And I just didn't want that to happen. And I just wanted to take my time. Obviously, I did that reverse phase, like, I'm going to say like natty. Obviously, I'm not like running nothing. You know, I always run stuff like GH, T3, T4, my testosterone replacement therapy, metformin. Those are like my kind of baseline stuff, but no anabolics, because obviously I just done 5 weeks on Anavar. I wasn't going to stay on for another 6 weeks, because when we look at virilization and the risks of side effects for females, it's duration of exposure and how long you were on things. So I was like, I don't want to be on it. And honestly, I also kind of said like, I would be happy to maybe do like 1 cycle within this entire push-up phase, but I'm not in a rush. At the end of the day, I don't want to just take a load of drugs and get as big as I can, because I care about my femininity. And like I said, I'm not in a rush. Like I'll compete again after next year. I can take my time, but I wanted to see what I could do with just having like my testosterone pretty high. Obviously it's still within the female range, and just training fucking hard and eating good food. And like I said, when I'm on primo, I do feel it, and also my weight goes up so quick, it just feels uncontrollable, and I just didn't want that. Like, I didn't want that for the majority of my off season. So I reversed, kind of optimized natty, we'll call it, and was super on it with off-plan meals and stuff like that. So that rate of gain was really good, and it meant because I was so on it, we could get my food quite high. So like now I'm sitting in a place, I don't think my food's been this high for years. I'm on like 450 carb on a training day, 400 carb on a rest day, like over 3,000 calories, and you know, my weight's not shooting up, right? Like some weeks my weight barely moves. In terms of the training legs 4 days a week, it's definitely been super productive. I really love training legs 4 days a week, like I said. Now, it has not been without its issues. Like, I did have a few times, like a few back niggles. Now, I actually think that's just because I have a really, really weak lower traps, so they struggle to stabilize my scapula, and then I was having some issues with my ribs. So I had like 1 or 2 issues where I had to get the chiropractor to come and sort me out. Luckily, I know a chiropractor here, and he is really, really good. He was always able to like fix me. Then I obviously went to Ibiza, came home, I twisted my ankle, and then of course we had the dropping the plate on my foot incident. And then most recently, like I was talking about in my video, I think it was 2 videos ago, about I had to come clean. I obviously kind of wasn't recovering very well from the training, just because I had gotten so strong. And when you're super strong and training legs with super high intensity and super high frequency and volume, there's always going to be something that stops you, and your body is just going to say, I can't recover from this. And that was happening to me. So we've since reduced my volume and I'm feeling really, really good. You know, my knees aren't hurting me anymore. I'm all fine now, thankfully. And I've definitely seen like a lot of difference from training legs 4 days a week. And even when I take a deload and I take like 5 days off, or even when I went to Ibiza, I took like, I think 9 days off between the deload and then just like recovering, I still looked just as big and full, which kind of, I was afraid that the only reason I looked as big as I did was because it was just inflammation and that it was going to go away when I stopped training, but it didn't. So that showed me that it was actually muscle tissue, which is good, because that's the whole point of, you know, being, or like trying to grow. Before Ibiza, so those 6 weeks before Ibiza, I did run a cycle. So we did 6 weeks of primo, again, the usual. And then since then, I've just been off everything in anticipation of prep. So one thing that's changed a lot within these 2 years, I suppose you could say, is my training. Obviously, yes, my training's changed in the sense that I no longer train like a figure girl, I train like a wellness girl, but I have made it my mission to really learn about training and how to train my glutes, especially more effectively, because they are a bit of a weaker body part for me, just because I didn't train them as much when I was training for figure. Like I said, about 6 direct sets of glutes per week. It wasn't a focus point, and you know, just doing that, I still had a decent set of glutes. Like I always say, when I was prepping naturally, I mean, my glutes were peeled. Okay, they were fucking peeled, but also I had a glute ham tie-in from like 12 weeks out, and I was like, how do all these girls freak out about getting a glute ham tie-in? Like I literally have, like I kind of still have one now. It's very minimal, but it's kind of there. So I do have a decent set of glutes, but obviously when we're looking at wellness, they have to be fucking huge and bubbly and 3D. And I knew I couldn't just keep training the way I was training, just like, you know, all like, obviously I still train to failure, but just being super aggressive in my training, just moving the weight, that got me a lot of gains and a lot of progression. But then you have to start refining that. So I've really stripped back my glute movements. I've spent a lot of time like watching other people train, learning from other people, and just trying to figure out like how to train glutes better. What exercises work best for me? Where can I feel things? You know, I've learned a lot about, say, foot pressure and driving through different parts of your foot to recruit your glutes more, and I'm constantly learning, right? Like I'm still learning more and more and more, and I'm sure over the next few years I'm going to keep learning more and more and more, but I've really gone in on how to get the most out of the training that I am doing. I definitely think like the mind muscle connection I have with my glutes now is so different. Like I feel like I can connect with like different parts of my glutes, which I never could have done that before. And I've implemented exercises that in the past I would have said were stupid. You know, like I love abductions now, I love kickbacks, I do so many kickbacks, and I do think it's had a big impact on my glutes. Obviously the majority of my glute training and things that I've done to build my glutes has been heavy stuff, right? Like heavy leg presses, heavy hip thrusts, heavy Bulgarian split squats. That is the meat and potatoes of my training, but I also have spent a lot of time refining those accessory movements, because that's a way to get more volume to the glutes without absolutely battering yourself, and usually it's a way to get more volume to the glutes without hitting other parts of your lower body like your hamstrings or your quads. Obviously they're still going to be involved, but you can isolate the glutes better. So that's been like a big focus for me, has just been learning how to train like a wellness athlete, because it's different. It is different. I mean, you still got to train hard and heavy, but you have to be specific about what body parts you're training. And so just to give some numbers and context in terms of this last gainer phase, so like I said, I think I got down to like 136 pounds. Like that was me super sucked down and depleted after I fat loaded, so I had 0 carbs for 4 days. But we'll say about 138 pounds was like my final weight for that diet / photo shoot prep, and today I'm sitting at 164 pounds, so I'm about 24 pounds up. And it's been what, like, oh, I don't even know how long that is. The start of May, June, July, August, September, October, so almost 7 months. So this push-up phase has been a lot longer than the last one, and I'm lighter than when I finish the last one, and I probably imagine I'll probably be around like 165, 166 when we finish this. And then the plan of action is I'm going to go to Dubai, have a few days off, and then we're going to start kind of maintenance-ish, although we may change that plan just because certain show dates have come out and we may want to compete a tiny bit earlier than we initially thought. But I'm going to be saving all that for future videos and like my prep plans and stuff like that. But I'm really happy with how this last push-up phase has gone. Like obviously, like I said, I've had times where I've like missed sessions and stuff due to injuries or, you know, stupid stuff like dropping plates on my feet. But in general, like, I've trained fucking hard, managed to get my food nice and high. I've got my period back now, so like I'm obviously like somewhat healthier. So these are all good signs that my body is hopefully ready for a good prep. You know, again, that last diet was so responsive, and I don't want to like jinx myself, but touch wood, I generally diet pretty well. I don't have to go super low calories. I don't have to go super high cardio. I have quite a responsive body, and like I am really excited to do my first prep as an enhanced athlete, because I think it's going to be a bit crazy. Like a bit crazy. We probably will have to push harder because I'm going to be able to in this prep, because I'm going to have things in place to help me maintain muscle. But yeah, I'm ready for it. So I suppose I want to like wrap up the video, or just finish off the video, because I feel like this has already been super long. We're just talking a bit about like, how am I feeling right now, today, 22nd of November, as I finish this off season, and I'm getting ready for my second ever prep, and my first prep as a wellness athlete, my first prep as an enhanced athlete. I am so excited to prep. Like, I'm so mentally ready to prep. And I think this is really worth talking about. Like, you have to be mentally there, because when I did my diet earlier this year, I had a lot of people ask me like, are you secretly prepping? Like, are you going to compete? Even Christian was like, we should just compete. And I was like, I'm not ready. And I don't know how to explain what that means, but you will know. And I get this question a lot from, you know, potential athletes, like potential competitors, like, how do I know I'm ready? And I'm like, okay, you're going to feel scared, but you'll also probably just know. And you'll just know that the time is right. Like, the time was not right this year. I was moving. I just moved to Spain. I didn't want to compete this year. But right now, I am so excited. I'm watching other people compete. I've been at shows, and I can't wait to be up there myself. And I feel like physically and mentally, I'm ready. I definitely feel like I've grown. I mean, I've grown a lot in this last off-season, right? Like, I would hope so. But also, like, being realistic. So the first 5 to 6 months of the off-season, that was when I was still natty, still like fucked hormonally. So I don't necessarily think I grew all that much within that like off-season gainer phase. I think I probably just built back muscle I'd lost in prep, and then just kind of got a little bit chunky. Then obviously I went straight into a diet, so I wasn't really building muscle then. Then I spent the next 26 weeks, it would have been, building muscle, and then 29 weeks up until now. So that's a total of, over the last 2 years, 54 weeks that I've actually been in a surplus and been in a position to grow, which is about a year. So while a 2-year off season, it sounds like a lot, in totality, when you break down the amount of times I've actually been able to spend growing, it hasn't been a huge amount, which is definitely something that I'll be able to rectify next year. Obviously, there's going to be a few complications thrown in the works, because I am planning on getting my boobs done at the end of next year, and then I'm getting married at the start of April, or in April 2026. So I won't be in a massive push-up at that point, but I also don't plan on getting like super fat, so I should be able to just, you know, kind of, I hate the word lean gain, but that's kind of what I'm aiming for at that time. But obviously, you know, those few things are going to slow down it, but I probably won't compete again until 2027 anyway. So, you know, I'm going to have time to grow, and hopefully I'll be able to spend more time in a growing phase and building based on all the stuff I've learned in these last 2 years about how to manage my rate of gain, and, you know, how to train effectively and everything like that. Obviously, it would have been nice if more of that time I had spent, you know, growing, but that's just the way that it went. That's the way the cookie crumbled. It's just, it's what happened, and there's nothing that I can do about that. But for those 54 weeks of like being in a surplus, I've definitely grown a lot. Like, I can't, sometimes, and I think I'll talk about this more in a minute, but like, sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, have I grown at all? But I think that's normal at the end of it, of a gainer phase at the end of an off season. But within that 2 years, I've also had a lot of life stuff happened. Okay, I moved to Canada, and we traveled loads. Then I moved to Spain. Then I got engaged. You know, my business has grown so much since I stepped off stage. You know, I now employ people. I have like, you know, I coach competitors, way more shoot clients. Like, my business is a lot more full on. So that has like taken up so much of my focus and my space, right? So, you know, and obviously within that, and like, especially like, you know, some of the more travel and stuff, that kind of contributed to me maybe gaining weight quicker than I would have liked. But I have no regrets. I have no regrets about that. Like, I am so happy with how the last 2 years have gone, because I'm more than just a bodybuilder. like I am so much more than just a bodybuilder. I mean, I'm pretty one-dimensional. All I really talk about is the gym, but I'm also a coach. I'm also now a fiance. I'm a friend. I'm a human who's like experiencing life for the first time. And to me, being able to have those experiences, even if sometimes they go a little bit against being the best bodybuilder ever, I'm okay with that because I am more than just a bodybuilder. And yeah, like I look back on these last 2 years and like I don't recognize that girl who stepped off stage 2 years ago. I feel like I'm so different to her in a great way. Like I don't look back at myself then and be like, oh God, but I wish I could, because I feel like that version of me was very confused and didn't really know what to do next and was scared about the future. And I wish I could go back and just give her a big hug and be like, it's gonna be fine. Like, it's gonna be absolutely fine. And I also know, like, if she could see me now, she'd be like, whoa, like, that's pretty cool. So, that's something that I'm, like, really proud of, and I love being able to say that. So it's definitely been a productive off season. Obviously, changing coaches, that was a huge thing, but I love Christian. I can't speak highly enough about him, and I know he's just as excited for my prep as I am. I know because he tells me all the time. So I'm really excited to go through prep with him. Like, we have a great relationship. I know he's going to look after me well. I have no problems with telling him how I'm feeling or what I want to do and stuff like that, and he's always super receptive to it. And that's why it's so important. Like, if you want to compete, like, you should start with your coach as soon as you know you want to compete, because if I only started with him a few months ago, there maybe would be things I wouldn't really be comfortable talking to him about, or I wouldn't know if I could say things, whereas I've no issues being like, hey, I don't like doing this, or I want to do it this way, obviously within reason. I don't just sit there and coach myself and be like, you need to just do what I want. And if I think he would probably tell you that I don't communicate enough. I'm learning, and before prep, I've learned, but being at the point that I'm at now, I'm obviously a bit heftier, and I know I have a physique that transforms when I get lean. So because I have like no waist right now, it really hides my shape. It makes me look so much smaller, and this is the reality of having more body fat. Like, you will look smaller, and then obviously being off any sort of anabolics, right? Like, I look a lot smaller, but I just have to trust that as soon as I start dieting, I'm gonna look really different. But because of that, and because I'm a bit heavier now, I definitely am starting to have moments of self-doubt. And recently I've found myself just kind of thinking, like, have I even made any progress? Like, am I gonna look any better than I did when I was natty? And like it's so funny because I say it out loud and it's like, mate, you spent 2 years off. A year of that you've been fucking running deer. Of course you're gonna look different. Like it's so illogical to think that I wouldn't, but this is what happens. And I think this is normal. Like, before you start your prep, you're gonna have moments of like, have I done enough? Like, have I actually done enough? Like, I know I've worked so hard in this off season. Like, I train really hard. I put so much effort into this. Like, it is my life. Like, yeah, I know I have like more balance, but to the average person, if they looked at me, they'd be like, you are so restrictive and so rigid, and I give this my fucking everything. But I'm still questioning at this point, like, is it enough? Like, could I have done more? Could I have not gone on that trip or whatever? But then I have to think, okay, well, like, if I could have 1% more progress but not have had all those life experiences, would I take that swap? But of course not. Like, of course not, right? And then I had to really start thinking about, like, what is enough? And I knew that my fucking therapist would ask me this question, because I always say this, I'm like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not working hard enough. And realistically, like, going into this season, my goal is just to get on stage, look like a wellness athlete, and be better than I was when I last competed. And I mean, I hope I'm going to look like a wellness athlete. I hope I'm not going to look like a bikini girl. That's my one goal, really. But I know I look better than I did last time. I know that, like without a doubt. So, of course I have done enough. Like, I don't know what more I could have done. Also, I have no idea how I'm going to look doing a prep with PEDs in place. Like, there's going to be a big difference between the way I looked, even when I did my photo shoot prep, because it was only a few weeks at the end. Like, I know we're going to be using more next time. I'm going to be running some at the start. So it's impossible to know, like, exactly how I'm going to look. Apologies, I just had to take a brief intermission because my camera memory card was full. I believe I was just talking about the fact that I have no idea what I'm going to look like once I do a prep with PEDs in place. I know it's going to look so different. I'm going to look bigger, I'm going to look harder, I'm going to look grainier. And again, I know I always joke, I have a sleeper build. Like, you would look at me when I'm in my off season and think, meh, she looks okay. But I know that as soon as I diet and my waist gets teeny tiny, everything else looks bigger and it just looks so much more impressive. And this is genuinely the head fuck of being in an off season. You will doubt yourself and you will wonder, are you making any progress and are you growing at all? But you just have to know, if you've been putting in the work, like, you have to have, like, I know I can't look the same as I looked when I finished my first prep. Like, there's no way. But of course I am having those feelings, and you know, I look at other competitors and I think, oh God, like, they're so much bigger than me. But then I have to be realistic. Like, I've only been training for wellness for a year, and well, a year and a half, and a year of that has been in a surplus. I can't compare myself to girls who've been training this way for 5-10 years. I can't. Of course my brain still does it, but it's stupid. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And bodybuilding is about being your best. Bodybuilding is about your journey and your progress. And I know I've done that. I know I've made progress. And this is my first time. This is my first time competing in wellness. And I'm going to learn a lot in this season. I know I will. And it's going to show me what I need to work on for the next time. And I suppose, you know, I want to round out the video by talking about what my goals are for next season, because a lot of people ask me that. And I kind of say it jokingly, but it's not really a joke. Like, my goal is just don't come last. Just don't come last, because I'm not going to sit here and be like, I want a pro card. I've never competed in wellness. I've never competed in the IFBB. The girls in Europe are fucking huge, and it would be so stupid of me to sit here and be like, I'm going to be a pro. Now, do I train and work as if that is what's going to happen? Yes, 100%. I know that I am very, very, very dedicated to this, but I'm also realistic. I'm not fucking delusional. I'm not one of these people who's never competed. It's like, I'm going to be a pro. And I'm sorry if that's you, but like you have to earn the right to say that. If I'm being honest with like my goals, I would love to do a pro qualifier and be in the first call out. Like, that would be an amazing achievement for me, I think. And yeah, that would be amazing. Top 3 or even top 5, top 6. I would love that, and I'd be really, really proud of that, because like I said, the girls here are no joke. Wellness is a weird one. Sometimes the girls show up and they're massive. Sometimes they're not that impressive. So it just depends on the show. But I also know the shows I want to do, they're big shows. And I want to go and do the big shows. I don't want to do the shit shows and come first. Like, that's not an achievement to me. I want to stand in a big lineup and be able to genuinely see, like, how do I stack up and how do I look? I know my physique has certain strengths. You know, if I'm being, you know, objective, I suppose, about my physique, it flows really nicely. And I think that's something that, unless you understand bodybuilding, you might not get what I mean by that. But I think when you look at me, when I'm lean, it all kind of like looks like it fits together. It's, some people, like, certain body parts just look a bit awkward, and this is the thing with bodybuilding, it's so genetic, but I have a nice flow, and that was the same in figure. Everybody always said that to me, like, your physique just flows, it all just fits together. I'm going to be a smaller wellness athlete, I know that, but I also know that I have a really good shape and structure, but I'm just smaller. And wellness is weird. Like, sometimes they award the smaller people, sometimes they award the mass monsters, but you know, you're supposed to be feminine. You know, if I look at some of the girls like Giselle, massive glutes, but she's not a monster, she's not huge, and she came 5th at the Olympia. So it just depends. It depends what the judges want that day. It depends who else is in the lineup. And I just have to bring my best. That's all. I know my weaknesses too. My rear shot is my weakness, okay? Like, my glutes, they are weak. They are. They're big-ish, but they definitely insert a bit lower down on my body, so I don't have that like huge shelf at the top. But when I'm lean, they definitely look bigger. So it's just going to really come down to how I look when I'm lean. And again, I'm not going to know what that's going to look like until I'm there. But I know that as soon as I lose the fat from like my waist and like around my glutes, they just go, and they look bigger, they look juicier. So hopefully, you know, they look okay. But I know that's definitely probably going to be my feedback, is my lower body and my rear shot especially needs to get bigger. Like, my quads are okay. Again, they're not massive, but relative to my glutes, they're stronger. And you have to remember, with wellness, they want balance from glutes, quads, hamstrings. They don't want any one of those to be out of proportion. So yeah, it's just going to come down to like how all that looks when I'm lean. And again, who I'm beside. If I'm beside someone with a giant set of glutes, I'm going to look really small. But if I'm beside somebody else who's maybe similar to me, I might look big. I don't know. And this is the thing with bodybuilding. Certain people look great on their own on Instagram, and then they stand in a lineup and they don't look as good. And that's something that I always try to remind myself of. Like, I don't think I photograph well. I feel like I look better in person. And people have said that to me, and like Christian said that to me. He was like, you look way more impressive in person, which is great, because that's what matters. like, I don't care about how many followers I have on Instagram because I look a certain way. I care about what the judges think. Like, that's me being honest. But I know what I'm gonna have to work on, and that's fine. Like I said, this is gonna be my. I don't think this is gonna be my last time competing. I certainly have no plans for it to be my last time, unless I come dead last, and it's very obvious that I'm never gonna fit into this class. Then maybe I'll just stop or go to bikini. Never gonna go to bikini. I don't think I'd ever fit into bikini. But look, either way, the goal of bodybuilding is to simply be better than you were the last time. Am I better than I was the last time? Yes. Have I done pretty much everything I can to be better than the last time? Yes. Has it been a perfect off season? No, of course not. Have I learned for next time what to do better? Yeah, I have. But have I also lived my life and enjoyed things and had amazing experiences? Yes. And do I regret a single bit of that? No. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling, basically. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm definitely doubting how I'm going to look. And look, I am someone who struggles with self-doubt a lot, so I don't think that's suddenly going to go away. And it's a demon that I'm always going to have to fight, which that sounds so fucking deep. It's my demons. But it's true. And I've said this to people before, like, a prep will bring out the things that you have not worked on, and it will bring out your demons. And for me, that's just constant self-doubt and constantly thinking that I'm not good enough. And I've done a lot in this off season to work on that. I've gone to therapy a lot, I've discussed it, but it's also something that I have to recognise as just a part of me, but it's also the part of me that drives me to do better. It's the part of me that pushes me. Because I doubt myself so much, I know I will put the work in. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm content. I feel like at peace. I feel like this is the right time for me to compete. And I'm just excited to see what it's going to look like. You know, I can't wait to see how I'm going to look. Super, super shredded, you know, enhanced. It's crazy, and I can't wait to compare me next year to me 2 years ago. But yeah, it's been good. It's been a good off season. I've made mistakes along the way, and that's bodybuilding. You're supposed to make mistakes and you're supposed to learn from them, and you're supposed to just refine your processes every time. Every time you diet, you should do it a bit better than the last time. Every time you off season, you should do it a bit better than the last time. Every time you reverse, you should do it a bit better than the last time. And if I can just keep doing it a bit better than the last time, then who knows in a few years where I'll be. But my goals for next season is just see how I stack up, see how it goes, and yeah, just dip my toe in the water, I suppose you could say. Although I don't do things in halves. So like I said, like, I work my fucking ass off every day as if I'm going to be the winner. Do I visualize myself winning? Yeah, every single day. Like, I'm not just going to just have fun. I'm going to compete, but I don't know how I'm going to look, so it's really hard for me to say. But I said that in my first season, and I still came away with, you know, a lot of wins and a pro card, so who knows. But I'm excited. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been a bit of an interesting watch. I hope maybe it's inspired you in your own off seasons. And yeah, I'll definitely be making a video in the next little while about like prep and what that's all going to look like. But if you have made it this far, I feel like this video has been so long, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope, like I said, it's been useful. I feel like I already just said that. Oh, fuck's sake, start again. But yes, if you have made it this far, which obviously you have if you're still watching, thank you so much for watching. Of course, please don't forget to subscribe to the video, give me a like, give me a comment, and stay tuned for the next one, and stay tuned for prep and the prep vlogs, because they are going to be coming in hot and heavy. And I'm so excited now that I have YouTube to document this whole thing, because it's one thing that I just don't have from the last prep. I obviously have all my stories and stuff, but I'm excited to have the vlog because I'm so much better long form. I'm so much better on YouTube. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.